What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the 1025 podcast. And today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Today I'm joined by one of my closest friends and honestly one of my favorite people in the world, Brianna. And how you doing, Brianna, at first?
Doing good, doing good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal. I'm so great to talk to you. And today we're going to be talking about one of the most highly anticipated films of this year, to be honest with you, and that is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, of course, for anyone who doesn't know, Zack Snyder's Justice League, or the Snyder Cut, as we all know of it, is the director's cut of the 2017 film Justice League, which Zack Snyder originally was directing until a tragic family tragedy involving his daughter, and he had to leave production. So Warner Brothers thought it was a great idea to bring Josh Whedon, of course, we know of him as the director of the Avengers films, to finish the film. And in return, not a lot of people dug that movie. And then fans, of course, wanted the Snyder Cut, as it was called, to be made and to be finished so people can watch it. And then I believe like early last year, during the whole pandemic, Zack Snyder announced, I think on a watch party of Man of Steel, that he was releasing the Snyder Cut. And as you know, we've all seen it, and this is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion. And I have to say, well, first, Bree, because I never saw the original theatrical cut back in 2017.
Okay.
What were your thoughts on that 2017 film and when you actually watched the Snyder Cut?
Okay, so I actually saw that not sorry. Okay, so I actually saw Justice League in theaters when it came out. Me and my brother, we originally wanted to go see Thor Ragnarok, which saved the whole Thor franchise, of course. And I believe that going to see that movie before, a Marvel movie before, and going to see that DC movie after, it really just usually I would have thought, oh, it's a DC movie. They didn't do too great, and that's that. But being able to compare the two, like everything Marvel can achieve and how they set it up, and just the same things that DC tried to do and didn't really get to it. They kind of fell flat a lot.
Yeah.
Seeing the original, I didn't think it was too great originally, but rewatching, and because I watched it again before the Snyder Cut, and it's still not too good. And the Snyder Cut really improves on everything. It's justice. It's what Justice League could have been, and then some.
Okay. Now, I personally have always been a fan of DC growing up. I remember when I was younger watching the Justice League cartoon, as well as Justice League Unlimited on Cartoon Network, as well as the Batman and the original Teen Titans. So going into the Snyder Cut, I was expecting, because I personally do enjoy the DC films. I love Man of Steel. That's one of my personal favorites. Batman v Superman I thought was okay. Suicide Squad, didn't really like that one. Wonder Woman I thought was okay. This is cool.
Wonder Woman's good, yeah.
Never saw Justice League, as they call it, right? So when I pressed play and watched the whole film, because I watched it all in one sitting,
right?
And I have to say, I absolutely loved this film. I loved it. And during this time period now that we're in the oversaturation of comic book movies, the fact that one came out of one of the most beloved teams in comic book history, and to actually be a really good film, instead of like everybody was going to call it an Avengers ripoff and all that, and DC should be like Marvel, and we'll get to that in like a few seconds. I definitely think that if this was released in 2017, it would have probably gave Marvel a run for their money, basically.
It definitely would have. And I believe that because you haven't seen Justice League, what came out in 2017, you're able to see it with fresh eyes. Like this is it for you as a DC comic fan. This is what we should have gotten all along, which I think is great. I do.
Yeah. And when it comes to DC films, I've always been the main one arguing with fans that DC should not be like Marvel. DC
No, not at all.
should never in a million years try to be like Marvel because, for one, DC was the originator of dark and gritty films, comic book
Right.
films. You know, if you go back to the Tim Burton Batman movies, that had a very gothic, style
Hmm.
to it. Of course, the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, that was like the thing that paved the way for dark
And
films.
even staying in the realm of Zack Snyder, Watchmen was dark,
Watchmen,
you know?
yeah.
So
Watchmen
he,
definitely is one of
yeah,
those films that, of course, is also very polarizing when it comes to the comic book community. Like a
right,
lot of
right.
Zack Snyder's films, definitely polarizing. Watchmen, Batman versus Superman. I don't want to. I don't consider Justice League from 2017 Zack Snyder's film. That's Josh
It's
Whedon's
not.
film. That's a
That's definitely Whedon's.
Frankenstein. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
Frankenstein version
Because
of.
it's especially like you would mention Frankenstein. You can tell like the characterization within it. It's like it's not as if one person wrote it. It's like you got a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and it's all amalgamated into something that's not too great.
Yeah. And when people heard the news that he would be stepping down from as the director of Justice League, and they were going to bring in Josh Whedon, and people were like, oh my God, he's going to make the movie great now
Right.
because he
Right.
directed the first
Avengers
two
one.
Avengers films.
Right.
Now, me personally, and I've told you this, I'm not really the biggest fan of the first two Avengers films. I
Right.
like Age of Ultron. I think Age of Ultron is okay. I think
I
it's
love Age of
okay.
Ultron. Underrated movie.
The same like hate that they give Age of Ultron, I think it's the same amount of hate that they give like Man of Steel and Spider-Man 3 from Tobey Maguire. But when I heard that they were bringing Josh Whedon in, I'm like, his style of writing isn't gonna work for Justice League. It's gonna work for Avengers. Like Tony Stark is very comedic. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Everyone else is like the serious type. In Justice League, from what I've seen of like certain clips, Flash is very like out of place. He
Yeah,
seems
that's another big thing. He took his experience from Marvel in the Marvel formula that you impose on those characters, where it's like it's kind of serious, it's kind of intense, but there's also a lot of jokes and clips during it. He
yeah,
took that and put it in Justice League, which it shouldn't have been. Justice League should take itself seriously, and Joss Whedon didn't. He applied the Marvel formula to a DC movie. We see
right.
why that didn't work.
Right. It doesn't work because even in the certain trailers, because I watched all the trailers leading up to
Mhm.
Justice League, they treated like Batman and Flash's relationship similar to Tony Stark and Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking to myself, even that doesn't really work in the MCU because from what I remember in Marvel comics, Peter Parker hates Tony Stark. Like in the Civil War comics, like it's like
Right.
I don't
We
really
yeah,
like you, but I'm gonna, help
tolerate.
you
We
achieve
have
it.
to do this. So might as
Right.
well, you know.
Now let's get talk whoa. Let's get started on talking about the film. First, I want to
Okay.
say the opening is great. It shows the death of Superman as we saw at the end of
That's
Batman versus
from.
Superman.
Mhm.
And the way that it was the composition of it, I think, is beautiful. The cinematic quality as we hear his screams across the whole world and they wake up
Right.
the mother boxes. And for those who pretty much don't know, the mother boxes are basically a bunch of cubes and they form the unity, which reveals the anti-life equation, what Darkseid is after. And we'll get to Darkseid in a few. I also, like I told you,
Actually, it's good. I like the opening sequence also, but I think that anything would have beat the original 2017 opening version. It was Superman with his CGI really bad
I,
mustache. It was gross,
yeah,
but that kind of they just tried to use that as a recap of the Superman dying, and that didn't work at all. It
yeah,
didn't work. It looked odd and out of place even in the movie. So this one is miles ahead. This opening sequence is miles ahead
yeah.
already. We're what 2 seconds in?
Yeah, like and this is basically because this film technically really is like a mini series. You know what I'm saying? It's
It is.
not
Yeah.
really film. Of course, it's 4 hours. And when I heard that, I was thinking to myself, how is that going to be? Now, granted, I can't be given this flack for being 4 hours when I sat through 3 hours of Avengers
For
Endgame
Endgame,
and I had
yeah.
to go to the bathroom a few times. I was like, nah. But since I'm in the comfort of my own house, I'm like, okay, I'm a
I
little bit
definitely
more
helped the
comfortable.
release.
Yeah.
Definitely helped the release. It being a home release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And certain people have seen this in theaters. And I'm just like, y'all lucky because I couldn't do that. I'm
You know,
sorry.
I actually looked up if there were any theaters near me that were playing it in theaters because I would have paid any amount of money to see this movie in theaters. I would have. And the aspect ratio too, I didn't take that into account at all.
Yeah.
So when we went to watch it, me and my brother, he has this projector. We're setting it up. We're trying to figure out what wall to put it on, get the widest screen, and it just we set it up. It took up the whole wall, and then it turns out when we turn the movie on, it's what was it, 1:3 ratio, 1:4
It
ratio?
was, and I like that you brought up the aspect ratio, Bree. It's 4:3 aspect ratio, right? And when I watched it, it had a little thing that said this film will be presented in 4:3 aspect ratio to
Right.
respect Zack Snyder's
To protect
artistic
his
vision.
integrity. That's it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The reason why it's 4:3, and this is what I think, why it's 4:3. 4:3 aspect ratio is basically the aspect ratio that a lot of TVs were back in the day when TVs were
Mhm.
square. Nowadays, when TVs are more rectangular, it takes up the whole screen like IMAX. Now, I was wondering, I was like, okay, because I thought that was going to be very distracting, the aspect ratio, but watching the film, it's not really
It's
distracting. It's
it's
actually,
not. And
yeah.
I read an article about it, and they said it's to enhance how the heroes in the movie move. They're more they're flying and like swinging hammers down and things like that. So
Hmm.
it gives that a little more oomph being up and down rather than left and right because they're not really, they're not really flying characters like that.
Yeah, like characters don't really fly like this. They usually fly like, you know,
Yeah.
up. Yeah. Now, let me see. I really dug the action in the film. Of course, since this is a comic book film, it needs
Comic
to
book
have
movie, right?
amazing action. And I think the action scenes are definitely intense, even though you kind of know that, these characters are gonna be okay. You
Hmm.
really dig the fact that Zack Snyder, being a visionary director, can just create beautiful scenes that are literally, if you pause it, it literally looks like a painting. You know what I'm saying? Like, or like a still out of a
Like
comic
a
book.
comic book canon.
Exactly.
Right. And that's the biggest thing. Like he gets it. He understands that
Right.
these movies are for comic book fans. They should look like comic books. And he nails that every time. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the villain. Now, the villain in this film is Steppenwolf. And when I heard that they were going to be doing Steppenwolf, I was like, who the heck is that?
Right.
And I saw the design of the 2017 film, and I thought that design looked kind of, it almost reminded me a lot of a Pixar villain, kind of, because it looks too kid friendly. And
Yeah.
even though that design is a little bit more comic accurate to like the New 52 Steppenwolf,
Mhm.
it just looked too kid friendly. Because I think somebody said that the reason why that design was in the film because it was too scary for kids. But the design of Steppenwolf in this film is a way better.
It's very much
Granted,
like that. That was one of the first things I noticed about like the movie. It's color grade actually. The first one was really, and they're known for being gritty and washed out, but it was kind of icky looking.
yeah,
They upgrade, they stepped it up in the Snyder cut, and that applies to Steppenwolf in his character and design also.
yeah,
I think he looks great in this one. The 2017 version, he looked in the face.
yeah. It
It
was the
just,
face,
yeah, it was the face. But in Zack Snyder's Justice League, even his armor is shinier. It stands out more. He looks more defined as a character.
and it moves a lot. It's like a
It's very
nanotech. You
fluid.
know what I'm
Very
saying?
fluid. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very nanotech.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought was weird because this design in the film isn't really as comic accurate as that 2017 one. Like the design of Steppenwolf in this film honestly reminds me of Megatron from the Bayverse Transformers movies, where he looks like just a walking a man with like knives all over his body and stuff like that. But the thing that I really dug about Steppenwolf, and he's one of my favorites in this film, he actually has a very compelling character arc. You know, he's not the I want to destroy things because I just want to. He actually, the main thing, he just wants to come back to Apocalypse.
He wants to be redeemed. Like,
redeemed,
and that was great because we didn't really get that in the 2017 version. We don't really get much of his motives. We know he wants the mother boxes, and that's about it. But in this one, we are given motive, tons of motive, and he works under Darkseid. We know that from the get-go. He says, I'm doing this for Darkseid. And I think that's great. He wants redemption, and he's trying to get his approval. And for him, for Steppenwolf, it's a redemption story.
Right. And that's what I really dug. I think the best villains are the ones that you understand why they're doing the things that they're doing.
Right.
And Steppenwolf definitely was a highlight of this film. And we'll get to the other standout characters in a few, but I also really dug the voice acting when it came to Steppenwolf, as well as the other Apocalyptians as well, like Desaad and Darkseid. I think Darkseid's voice was done perfectly. And his design also was very intimidating too. Of course, a lot of people were saying, oh, he looks like a Thanos ripoff. But then again, I'm like, Darkseid came first. So technically, Thanos low-key is a Darkseid clone. You know what I'm saying? Like, Darkseid is Thanos' dad.
I understand you said you like Darkseid's design more. And we were touching on earlier Steppenwolf's design. When it comes to making these comic book movies, you have to give a little bit in terms of design, because that's hand drawn, right? This is CG and technology. You have to give a little bit of it can't always look as accurate as the comic books, because sometimes, as we've seen, it doesn't work. It's ugly sometimes.
There's a lot. I'm sorry to cut you off. There's a lot of comic book designs that don't look, they don't translate well in live action.
The translation, that's what I was saying.
Like, a good example of that, I would say, is the Green Goblin from Spider-Man. Like, that design does not work. We had the Power Ranger suit. We had the Power Ranger suit in the first Spider-Man movie, and then we had some like snot goblin looking troll in the Amazing Spider-Man. I'm like, it doesn't work. Another one being Electro, like that original mask, like yellow mask, that looks stupid to me.
It does.
And then when Jamie Foxx portrayed him, he's all blue and he has like this generic armor look to it, but then again, some designs work, like Captain America. His costume,
you can rip it from straight from the pages, put it on, and it worked. It's great.
But see, I'm gonna be honest with you. The original Jack Kirby look, the original costume for Captain America, I thought didn't really look that good, especially his costume in the first Avengers movie. I thought that was horrible.
Yeah, the go-go boots.
Yeah, but his suit in Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War,
better progressively.
Exactly. But yeah, I think Darkseid definitely was much more, he was much more intimidating, in my opinion, of a villain. Thanos was intimidating, but you can kind of, he's like that type of villain, and this is gonna sound really stupid, where you can kind of reason with him, you can kind of sit down and talk to him, even though he would do that, you know.
They really humanized Thanos. Like
they did.
Marvel, they're really big on humanizing their villains, making them it seem like you could sit down and have a talk with them and just relate on some key points. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Black Panther.
Killmonger.
There you go. I'm sorry. Killmonger. He was a villain that if Killmonger is a bad person, then so am I, because I understand. It's just
when it came to Killmonger, I understood what you were doing. I understand why, but then at the
Right.
same
I
time,
understand
I was
when and
right,
why, but I wouldn't have gone about it the same way.
right. I understand what you were coming from, where he was coming from. At the same time, I was on T'Challa's side the whole time. I was like,
Right.
if the world knew what Wakanda possessed, then they would just take it all, basically. But then I
Right.
understand he came around. Damn, we just
They
made
make
this
it
all.
not so black and white, but that there's a ton of gray
Yeah.
when it comes to their villains.
Damn, we just went into a whole Marvel discussion. But let's go back to DC. I
Right.
think, let me see. I think Darkseid definitely, and later on this episode, we'll kind of talk a little bit about the plan that Zack Snyder originally was going to do for the Snyderverse, his sequels. Because of
Right.
course, news has came out recently that Warner Brothers is not. They like, nah, we gave
Yeah,
you the Snyder cut. Don't ask us for anything else again. We're done with Zack Snyder. Screw him. Let's go on. I think the idea that Darkseid was going to come to Earth and do the whole nightmare thing, I think that was insanely
it
interesting.
is set up beautifully for multiple other films. It was great. So, well, that's kind of be out of order, but I'm bringing up the nightmare sequence. Well,
Let's
not
bring it up. Let's bring it up.
Okay, so with that and Batman having premonition and all this other stuff, for that future, he set it up beautifully for another film, two more films, three more films.
Oh yeah.
It's just the dominoes set in place by him, with, I'm sorry,
Flashlight going back in time and warning Bruce.
Yeah, that with Slade, and
Cyborg and Mira and Joker and all the.
There's so many more threads that he could pull on in future films, and for them to shut that down, that's kind of sad to me.
I'm not gonna lie though, when watching the Snyder Cut, I was actually more excited for that sequence, the nightmare sequence, because I was thinking to myself, okay, what if they actually shot like a whole separate film in this nightmare realm? I think that would have been so interesting because I really dig, post-apocalyptic movies. Like one of my favorite films is Mad Max Fury Road, which this really reminded me of. I was like, okay, I would like to see a Mad Max inspired Justice League film. You know what I'm saying? Hell, I would like to see a Mad Max inspired Transformers film. I think that would be really fucking interesting. But like, and then, when Cyborg has those dreams about what actually happens when you touch the mother box and you see like Darkseid at Wonder Woman's funeral, which I thought that is so disrespectful. Like, you have Wonder Woman's mom literally crying like as she's cremating her daughter, and then you have this nigga in a ship literally just like he had to make sure she was dead.
Let me pop in real quick. Be sure.
Like, let me make sure she's dead. And then he stabs Aquaman with his own trident. One of the things I thought was so cool was when he uses I was about to say heat vision, his Omega beams to kill the other Atlantean. You can kind of see it spells out the word end. Did you kind of see that?
I didn't catch that, no.
When he uses his Omega beams, it kind of spells out END and then kills the Atlantean. That is straight up out of a comic book. Like, I could pause that and be like, oh my God. Like, I was thinking to myself, like, okay. And of course, I got to go back to Thanos because this is the only villain that I can compare to him.
Yeah, you could draw some letters for sure.
It's like, okay, you killed Loki. Loki's getting his own Disney Plus show. Okay. You killed Heimdall. Nobody really gave a shit about Heimdall. And then you snap your fingers and then everybody turned into dust, which I know that still traumatizes you. I'm playing. But with Darkseid, he was like, nah, I'm not snapping nobody. I'm literally stabbing you, breaking your neck. I'm doing.
Yeah. He wants that action. He's getting physical with it.
He literally Omega. I don't know if it was him or Superman. Omega being the Lois, and just that scene where Superman is holding Lois. It looks like a burnt ass like skeleton and shit. I was like, damn. This man don't play.
Vicious.
This is serious. For real. If they restore the Snyderverse, which I hope they do,
they
I
do too.
really
If we could get them to bring the Snyder cut, then I really do think that we could get them to, give us a Snyder verse.
let's do it. Like I really want to see this nightmare storyline. I think this story has so much potential to be probably even better than Infinity War and Endgame. I'm sorry. I know. I'm gonna say it. I know Marvel fans and Kevin Feige might beat me up for it, but like I could see that. Now, going to the Justice League characters, I think the benefit of the 4 hour runtime is that each character is fleshed out perfectly.
Right.
Bruce
They'll get
Wayne,
the development they need
yeah,
for sure.
Bruce Wayne, of course, he started his arc in Batman v Superman. He had this resentment towards Superman. And of course, with his death, it affected him in a way that was like, I can't, let him die in vain.
Right.
And he brings these characters together. Because from what I have seen in the 2017 cut, Bruce Wayne low-key was predicted as like a dumbass, sort of, and just a goofball in a way. I'm thinking to myself, this is Batman. This is the Dark Knight. Dark Knight shouldn't be Batman shouldn't be like a goofball, even though, with the Adam West.
Right. He'll have
Batman,
moments, but
right.
Overall, he takes himself very seriously.
Exactly. And then you have Wonder Woman, who, and I haven't seen Wonder Woman 84. I've heard it's kind of trash. It's kind of trash, but like, I think Zack Snyder truly, he gets that character of Wonder Woman. She had some of the best action scenes in the film. She kind of blames herself for abandoning Themyscira as Steppenwolf pretty much destroyed it. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Killed all the Amazonian warriors and stuff. Well, a few of them, Wonder Woman's mom was still alive. And I just think Gal Gadot, who portrays Wonder Woman, did a great job with her performance, and her action is really good. Now, the one thing that I find was a little bit annoying was her leitmotif.
Yes.
I'm just thinking to myself, okay, when it first comes on, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this is great.
Right. It's great the first time. The second time, I
was like, okay. And then, and it's just, anytime she does something, that leitmotif just soars that. Yeah. I was like, what? And her theme originally in Batman v Superman with the aggressive violins and stuff, I'm like, that's cool, but
yeah,
when you
they laid on thick.
They laid that shit on thick
for 4 hours. Yeah.
It's like when you first hear it, it's like, oh my God, this is awesome.
It was amazing.
When you hear it so many other times, it's like, okay, stop. That's like if in, let's say, Avengers Infinity War, they kept playing the Avengers theme every 2 seconds of the film. You know what I'm saying? The burn, 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 burn. Like, no, I don't want to hear that. But
I understand completely. That was definitely one of my complaints during the movie, not even after. During, I was like, how many times could we hear this theme,
Yeah. Who's next? Now, and then Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I was thinking, okay, Aquaman in this movie's cool. Because I remember watching Aquaman, I think with you when we were at Upper Bound. I think we played on the bus.
On the bus.
And I thought Aquaman was okay, personally. I was like, it's cool. And this film sets up that Aquaman film and why he hates his mom and, all Atlanteans and stuff like that. And then he grows to actually care about people, care about the league and all that. I don't think there was really much to Aquaman in that film, but he did his part. He was funny, he was badass, and he just did his part. But my 2 favorite characters in the film is Barry Allen, the Flash, and of course Cyborg. I'm gonna start with Cyborg first, because
he is the heart of this film.
He's the heart of this film, and I've always been a fan of the character of Cyborg from the original Teen Titans show. One thing though, a lot of people was like, oh my God, he doesn't say booyah in the film. Oh, this is trash, burnable fire. I'm just thinking to myself,
and it was very forced. He shouldn't have. I'm glad he didn't say it, because it probably would have been forced again.
Excuse me. Yeah, I'm just thinking to myself, that's a catchphrase. Like, it's like if you watch Ninja Turtles, you don't want to hear them saying Cowabunga all the time. Or when you hear watch Transformers, you don't want to hear Optimus Prime say roll out, transform and roll out all the time. Like,
Right.
or Captain America say Avengers assemble every 10 seconds, even though even though in Endgame, I thought that shit was
Used it
badass.
when he needed it, not
Right,
just
he
to
needed it.
throw it out there. There was no point where a booyah would have fit naturally and felt earned. You
Right.
you have to earn one of those. You don't just booyah, booyah. No.
Booyah while he's trying to, separate the mother boxes and stuff.
That would have been great.
Or booyah when the Unity explodes literally and it just blew up the earth. But I think Cyborg had the best arc in the film because he's a character who you get a lot of his backstory. This low key is a Cyborg origin story.
It is, yeah, for sure.
And I just love the scene where his dad actually, explains to him what his powers are about. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. The scene where, in this scene, I almost cried when I saw the scene. The scene where he hacks the waitress's bank account and gives her all that money. I was thinking to myself, that is such a heartwarming moment because it shows that he cares about people. And he's not he's not just some heartless robot, even though he is a robot. Because in the original,
look like that,
right?
That's not who he is.
Exactly. Because even in the 2017 cut, what I've heard is that Cyborg was just a mopey, brooding, emo robot, and I'm just thinking to myself, they've improved a lot on this character. Yeah. They took
in the 2017 version, Cyborg, he's not really with the team by choice. He's like, okay, there's this world-ending threat. I might as well help you guys because I have the power to. But in the Snyder cut, they give him a lot more. We give his backstory, his motivation. We get so much character development for him. It really is a Cyborg origin story because he is the heart of it. Yeah. Like he's the catalyst to pretty much everything.
All of this, and I definitely, because I've heard, rumors of Ray Fisher's beef with Josh Whedon, like Josh Whedon's conduct on the film. I really hope Ray Fisher comes back to play Cyborg because I definitely think he was the standout of the film. And before I started this podcast, I actually read an article that apparently Josh Whedon is being blacklisted in Hollywood now.
Really?
And for those who don't know what blacklisted is, basically you're being blackballed in the industry. So like people don't want to work with you because of your content. I remember I was doing an interview with a filmmaker for my class. And, I kind of brought on that example of, like, have you ever seen like one of those TV shows where like the main characters are making like a short film or something, and then the one friend is the director and they become like a douchebag on set or something like that?
Yeah, that's a popular trope, yeah.
I asked the director that, and he said, if that's the energy you're bringing on set, you're immediately blacklisted for that. And I'm thinking to myself, good, because when I start making films, I'm not going to portray myself as this hotshot filmmaker. Oh, I'm the director, so whatever I say goes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just want my films to be a fun experience. Because I even remember when I was in high school, one of my friends, we were directing a short film, and he turned out to be a major jackass. And I was like, nah, I ain't working with you. But yeah, I'd really hope Ray Fisher comes back as Cyborg because I definitely think he was great. And if they were to do a Cyborg film, which I hope they do, they would probably poke a lot of influence from, of course, like films such as Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell, because, Ghost in the Shell and Cyborg's arc throughout this film, very similar. I'm talking about the anime, not the one with Scarlett Johansson one. I was thinking to myself, even though I kind of dug that film, but not compared to the original.
First time it was okay, but then I thought about it. I was like, was it really though?
You should watch the original anime. It's actually really good though. Now getting to Ezra Miller's Flash, I was a little bit skeptical because I was like, comic relief characters in comic book movies are hit or miss. You can be a Peter Quill, or you can be a, what's an example of a bad comic relief character? I would say, you could be like Skids and Mudflap from Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. Horrible characters, and not really that good of a movie. I think he was serviceable. Ezra Miller as Flash was serviceable. His jokes were actually very funny. He wasn't overly obnoxious like how he was in the 2017 cut, from what I've heard.
It was very. That was one of the worst parts of the movie. I'm not blaming Ezra Miller because for his adaptation of the character, he just didn't have a good like he didn't have good. He didn't have anything good to work with. What they gave him, with the script and as far as that, he didn't have anything good to work with. Like as I was watching the movie with my brother, I was looking out for some lines that were in the original that either stayed, got changed, or got cut completely. I'm so glad that a majority of his jokes, they were really dumb. There was one where he first met Bruce, and he was just rambling on and on and on. It's like, what is brunch even? And
Yeah,
that was really dumb. It wasn't funny. It was just dumb.
I was thinking that because, like, when I was on Instagram and they were doing the comparisons, I'm like, okay, why the hell are they bringing up brunch a lot? Like, do you not know what do you not know what brunch is?
Is Flash is supposed to be a very intelligent character. He's a cop, he's a forensic scientist. And for them to reduce him to a brunch joke, it just didn't sit right with me,
Yeah. And I have to say, the scene where he reverses time, favorite scene in the movie. That is probably my top 3 favorite comic book scenes of all time. Right behind the leap of faith from Into the Spider-Verse, because you know how much I love that scene, right? And the portal scene from Avengers Endgame. The music that plays throughout this scene, when the scene is starting and he enters the Speed Force and he's seeing that the earth basically exploded, like it just blew up.
Did, yeah, like they lost.
They lost. In the movie,
basically. They lost. They died.
Everyone died.
We saw. I'm sorry.
The blast basically obliterated Superman. I was thinking to myself, I thought he was supposed to be like indestructible. Like, how the fuck is this blast vaporize him? What were you saying?
You want to wait for that to stop? The horn. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can, but it's not really bothering me.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, that was a huge thing. They lost. And immediately Flash was like, okay, I know what I have to do. We never see characters like Flash who have, in the comics, their power is like 11 out of 10. Infinite. We never see them do the stuff that we know they can do. And for us to see that in the Snyder Cut, for him to break tap into the Speed Force and break through that to rewind time, phenomenal. Like we would have never gotten that, because they always take these characters with these amazing powers and reduce them to pretty moderate for the sake of the film.
Yeah, because even and this problem even relates to Superman. Like, Superman is one of the most powerful beings in the DC universe. Like, there's comics where he literally moves the earth. Like, he literally has a harness on, he literally flew, and the earth literally was coming with him. Mm-hmm. There was one where he had this suit on and it had all the mass of the earth, which is like 1 billion tons or something, and he only broke a sweat, like one sweat. I'm thinking to myself, watching this scene, I immediately thought of all of my favorite comic book scenes. And then when he says, I want you to remember that your kid was one of the best to ever do it, I was like, yeah, this is the standout scene, the crowd pleasing scene in a comic book film. Love it. And then in the finale, when he reverses time, it really reminded me of the film Akira, and if you've ever seen the film Akira, in the final act, our main character Kaneda is going through like this dimension, right? And it goes through like his past and his Tetsuo's past, and it literally is just this big CGI just like explosion. Bro, Flash definitely had the best scene. And then the scene where he rescues Iris, I thought was really cool. Albeit kind of reminded me of the Quicksilver scenes from X-Men
Yeah,
Days
from
Future
X-Men
Past.
franchise. Right.
Yeah.
It was a good scene to show off we're introduced his character and say you don't know what he does. He's fast, he could pretty much stop time in the bottle, you know.
Yeah.
It was a good introduction to him, but it was a little bit weird. He had all this time and was just sitting there, you know, just
And he was look.
Yeah,
He was just like
that. There was no
like,
urgency to it.
This girl literally is about to die in slow-mo. She's like this.
Right.
And he's like, and he gets a hot dog, puts it in his pocket, and is like, okay, let me save her now. I'm just thinking to myself, you don't know this person. Why are you doing that? Like, I don't know. I was just like, nah. I mean, I know it's supposed to be cute or whatever, but it's like, if you never met me, right, and I have super speed and you're doing like this,
you're on your way to death. And I just take some time to admire how beautiful you are. That's a no for me.
Like he literally was just like, so beautiful. I'm like, no, nigga, save her. And then the hot dog, that was funny to me. And then
funny for sure.
And then I also like when he's about to run, his shoes literally just explode and just
a Flash problem for sure.
Facts. I would like the Hulk when he busts out his clothes. It's like, bro. Now I will say though,
little details.
And this is a little bit of a nitpick. I didn't really like his run. His run kind of looks like a ballet dancer. He's literally running like this. Look.
We've been clowning his run since 2017. Don't worry.
Like his run literally is like this.
Out of all the things they could have kept, they kept him running like that.
Right. Like you could have at least hired a track star and he could have been running like this. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know, man. Let me see. What else can we talk about? We got a whole lot of time, so we could just get comfortable and talk about anything. But I also think another thing I still don't really like is Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. The idea, I was thinking to myself, okay, that kind of could work. But Lex Luthor is like he's like one of the biggest villains of the DC universe, right? He's a billionaire. He has his own robo suit to fight Superman. He's a very intimidating figure. And then they get Jesse Eisenberg, who I never really could view as intimidating. And, he has this kind of goofy, kind of like, staccato with his voice. It's like, Superman, like, oh my God, yeah. And he was doing all this like crazy crap. And like one scene in BVS where he was eating a Jolly Rancher and he stuck one of the Jolly Ranchers in the dude's mouth. I'm like, nigga, what are you doing? But
I understand completely what you mean, but I have to disagree. I am a fan of Jesse Eisenberg. I remember like the first time I saw one of his movies was Zombieland. I've loved Zombieland ever since. He was good in that. He was good in the Magician movie, Now You See Me. But I also think he was a good Lex Luthor. And I see what you mean. They definitely gave him some of the Jared Leto Joker treatment in terms of like his mannerisms and writing.
We'll get to Jared Leto too, because I like Jared Leto. I think Jared Leto is one of my favorite actors. And when he was announced to play Joker, I was like, okay, that's perfect. Because he can definitely play a crazy ass dude. Watching like the thing with him is his laugh. I can't do his laugh. His laugh is so, and that's essential with the Joker. You have to have a great laugh. The creepy ass laugh is like I'm like, what are you? You sound like a dying parrot.
The Joker isn't about his laugh, but the laugh does play a big part of his character. It doesn't make him, but
right, it doesn't make.
You gotta have the laugh if you're the Joker, Right. And he definitely fell flat with the laugh, in my opinion, also.
Right, like it's like he's trying to sound creepy while laughing, like He sounds like he sounds like if a dying parrot and an old man with throat cancer had a baby. It's like this doesn't sound good.
That was a good one.
Thanks. Like even I didn't like Christian Bale's Batman's voice. Like he sounds like he smoked a lot of
Yeah,
cigarettes, and
I didn't like that either.
I do
I
like
really
Ben
did.
Affleck's where it's a little bit more
I love
robotic.
Christian and his Batman, and comparing what is his name? This Bruce. I'll say
Ben
this
Affleck's
Bruce.
Batman.
Ben Affleck, right? Sorry.
You're good.
Comparing the two, Batman is a real hit or miss character. Also, you can't
Yeah.
try to make him more. I guess, like I've said before, he takes himself very seriously, but there's also he's doing it for a reason, and you
Yeah.
can tell when an actor takes on a role, character, like he's just playing the part, like he's just okay, dark and gritty. That's not
Yeah.
it. It's dark and gritty, and there's a reason, there's a drive, a force behind him always.
Right. See, and the thing that I dug about Ben Affleck's Batman voice is the fact that it was very electronically modulated and it
Right.
sounds even more intimidating.
He does,
Like,
yeah.
like I remember in the teaser trailer for Batman v Superman, I was like, whoa, when he said, like, tell me, do you bleed? You will. Like, I'm like, that sounds amazing. Instead of Christian Bale's where it's like he said he smoked it like 20 Newports and he's talking like this and where are they, Rachel? I'm like, yo, stop.
Yeah, because Ben Affleck, his voice is it's not high, but he has a softer voice
Yeah,
than his Batman counterpart. And I do like that they play into using the modulator. You know, I'm not trying to hide that it is a modulator that is built into the suit, not just he lowers his voice for it. This is something Bruce took into precaution, put a modulator in the suit so he can sound the part. That's a
right.
thing I think.
Because I always found that weird in comic books when characters talk. I was thinking, because it's even with Superman, like when he has glasses, oh, he's Clark Kent, but when he takes these off, oh
Right.
my God, you're Superman. But then
Who
when you
are
put these
you?
on, when he when he puts his glasses on, it's like, oh, you're Clark, you're not Superman. It's like, what? Like, what's going
Yeah.
on with you? That actually made my throat hurt trying to imitate Christian Bale. So now I'm gonna be talking like this throughout the podcast. Yeah, y'all. So Batman, like, sound like I smoked a whole lot of fucking cigarettes. Oh man, this is fun. This is fun. As you can see, I love doing this podcast.
Yeah, no, and I've noticed, like I wasn't gonna say, but you're really like you're great at this. Like you have the like first off, your voice is good for it. Like you look like you were made to do something like this, like presenting stuff. Like you're really
Thanks for gassing me up. I'm playing.
good.
Now let me think. Now, as far as I would say, I know we're going. Let me stop slapping this mic because this shit is gonna fall and be like, oh fuck. But when it comes to, I would say, the 4 hour runtime, I kind of didn't mind it. I didn't mind it.
Zack's like he uses every bit of that 4 hours for a purpose. There's no scene that could have been cut out because it wasn't important. Maybe okay. I didn't like the Lois scenes too much. I don't really feel like Lois added too much to the movie. But if there's Superman, you have to have Lois. I understand that.
Yeah.
She is the key to his humanity, which we saw when he was resurrected and he was going crazy. But as soon as he saw Lois, no words, he just understood he's back. Clark is back.
Yeah.
Superman's there, but Clark is back. The human part of him.
And speaking on the lowest scenes, I also think that Martian Manhunter was low key useless in the film. I get that this is the idea that they were trying to do. They were going to set him up to be like, okay, he's going to join the Justice League along with like Shazam and Green Lantern and all of them. Mm-hmm. But it's like, okay, you introduce him, he doesn't do anything. He shows up, he's designed as, he disguises himself as Martha, Clark's mom, and then the general from Man of Steel. And I thought, okay, that was cool. And then he shows up on Bruce's doorstep and he's like, yeah, Darkseid's coming. And I'm thinking to myself, if I was Bruce, I was like, okay, where were you? Where were you when, we was getting our butts kicked by Steppenwolf and all of them and the Parademons and all those guys? But
I get that, but I like how they cameoed him and introduced on the low, Martian Manhunter, because it wasn't about him. The movie isn't about him,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I feel like he was more tied to the Superman thing with Lois. He needed to make sure that Superman returned.
Yeah.
That was his part of the movie.
Yeah.
But I think it was a nice little cameo. They threw him in as Martha, and then at the end with Bruce, just to let us know that he's there, and we'll see more of him in the future.
Hopefully, because we got to restore that Snyderverse, man.
Gotta restore it.
We got to restore it. If we could get this film made, then, bro, come on.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing about this whole thing. The Snyder Cut. It's the fans.
Yeah.
We made this happen.
Yeah.
I don't want to say bully, but we kicked up enough,
low key did. We low key did bully Warner Brothers.
We did.
And it's like, keep going, Marie. Keep going, Marie.
We wanted to see the director's vision. Any movie is the vision of the director. I feel that us Snyder Cut fans, we really just wanted to see what it was supposed to be originally, what his view for it. It's like we were kind of owed that.
Yeah, and I don't consider this the like director's cut, because you know how the theatrical one is technically the original cut, and then the director's cut is always labeled the director's cut. This is the original film.
Yeah.
Whatever Joss Whedon did, I'm just like, and the cinematography in that Joss Whedon film, it just looks really. This is gonna be a huge insult, and I really am gonna apologize to anyone who worked on that Snyder. I mean, on the Joss Whedon film, it looked very Disney Channel-esque, like light, vibrant, all colorful and stuff like that. I'm like, this is DC. I don't want to see no color. I want to see the saturation. I want to see people getting beat up. I want to see the dark, gritty streets of Gotham, man.
And another thing, they put a lot of blood here. Like this one's rated R.
Yeah,
and I was so surprised when I saw blood. What is that?
Right, like when Steppenwolf asked that Amazon, I was like, whoa! And then he like chopped off somebody's head, and then Mira like drained all the water in his body, and the blood was coming out.
Water bended him.
Yeah, water bending, and then turned into blood bending.
I thought that was great, because we usually never get that impact and oomph from these comic book movies with what we see blood and like not destruction, but it never really has any weight to it.
Yeah, there's not a lot of consequence to it. You know what I'm saying? Because like I'm gonna be honest with you, seeing Steppenwolf kill people and Darkseid kill people, and like Darkseid stepping on Steppenwolf's head was much more impactful to me than all the Avengers turning into dust. I was like, okay, like I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, because I read like the Infinity War. My dumb ass read the Infinity War spoilers. I was like, because I low key didn't really care, and I was thinking to myself, okay, all the Avengers, they die. Okay, how do they die? Do they, get cut, stabbed? They just turn into pixie dust. Like, I don't feel so good. I don't want to go. Look, Steve, I'm gonna always love that summer when you was so distraught on Infinity War.
I was. I'm not even gonna cap. I was.
Those were the times, bro. Those were the fucking times. Yeah. And I'm telling you, the nightmare sequence, I definitely think, like seeing Cyborg, Mira, Deathstroke, or Slade, as we all know him from Teen Titans, Flash in the nightmare suit, Joker, Batman, all of that was done perfectly. I would love to see a TV show, just like a 6-episode miniseries on that. And I also love when Superman comes in and everybody's like panicking. They're like, holy crap, Mira has the trident. Like everybody's ready to fight. Joker is basically laughing like, yeah, we're screwed. Yeah, we have no chance beating this dude. Oh my God.
Yeah, they have tons of like leeway to make movies or shows or anything really off their Otherworld series. There's unlimited possibility for them. I think that's something they really should try to lean into.
Yeah,
because they can tell so many stories. Like that doesn't have to be canon to just just to see what would happen. Like I think that'd be great if they did things like that.
Yeah. So overall, I do think the Snyder cut is definitely great. I definitely think the Snyder cut is one of the best comic book films of recent years, and of course, a major improvement from Justice League, right?
Right.
So overall, we love the Snyder Cut. Now, I kind of want to move on. We're going to still sort of talk about the Snyder Cut, but I kind of want to move on to all the controversies that DC was being plagued with for the past few years of, not being like Marvel. Oh, y'all playing catch up when it came to Marvel and all that type of stuff.
Okay.
I've always been the person, like I mentioned earlier, DC should never copy Marvel. DC should never copy Marvel. DC should be dark. Their stories are some of the darkest stories in comic book history. They have some of the darkest characters in comic book history. The Joker is there's literally a comic where the Joker cuts his own face off and staples it back to his face. Like, granted, Marvel has some really messed up stories throughout the years. Like, I think there was one story where, of course, the death of Gwen Stacy with Spider-Man, where she snaps her neck when Spider-Man catches him. But there's this one story I was reading where Spider-Man impregnated MJ and she died, basically.
Yeah, because of radioactive,
radioactive man juice. I was like, that is fucked up, like literally. But Bree, what are your personal thoughts on a lot of MCU fans trashing DC for it? Now, when the Snyder Cut came out, Marvel basically supported Zack Snyder for finishing his vision. The Russo brothers, they supported it. Zack was supporting the MCU and all that. So what were your thoughts throughout the past few years that DC was trying to copy what Marvel was doing, but they should be unique in their own way? What were your thoughts on that?
So just like you said, for many years, because the MC started in 2008 with Iron Man.
Yep.
And the DC film started with, was Man of Steel the first one?
Yeah, Man of Steel.
And
originally, it was supposed to start. It was 2013. Originally, it was going to be, I think, Green Lantern, Ryan Reynolds. We all know how that was horrible. And then, Man of Steel came out in 2013.
Okay. Yeah. So I do think that when DC started out, they did try to, not with Man of Steel, but maybe a little bit down the line with, let's say maybe, it's very apparent in Batman versus Superman that they're trying to kind of copy Marvel in terms of building the cinematic universe. But what I feel like they didn't do it correctly, because they didn't take the time to establish the characters like Marvel did.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't really be compared, DC and Marvel. They're two very different things. The only common denominator is superheroes. But they, like you said, very different stories. DC is supposed to be dark and gritty. Marvel isn't supposed to be like that. Well, it's not primarily like that. It's more fantasy and, that kind of realm. They did try to throw together a band of superheroes in the original 2017 Justice League, and it didn't work. It fell flat on its face because they tried to do what Marvel did too soon. Marvel put in the time, they put in the effort, they put in everything to get to where they were, to get to where they are still, And DC, they tried to rush it.
Yeah.
And it didn't really work out as well. But they have found their footing. I can confidently say that. Wonder Woman was good. Wonder Woman was
2017.
16, 17.
It was 2017. No. Oh shoot. Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad was 2016. And then 2017 was Wonder Woman and Justice League.
Okay, yeah. And around 2017, I believe, with Wonder Woman is where they really got their footing. They realized, okay, we shouldn't do what Marvel's doing. And I know they shouldn't. They're their own unique brand, but they have tons of strong points, lots of strong characters that they're using now. And I love that. There's an Atom movie coming out. They're really leaning into, we have these characters, and just because they're not the big three, they still get stories to tell too.
Yeah.
And ever since then, they're climbing. Shazam was good.
Shazam was great. I loved Shazam.
I did love Shazam. Aquaman, a lot of people think that was good. I thought it was kind of boring,
I thought it
but
was it was like
yeah,
okay, it was like this to me. Like
you're right,
this
you're
is
right.
good, this is ass like this.
Right. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad
Right.
movie.
Right. Wasn't bad.
And they've been on the climb since then. So DC, they're paving their way.
Yeah, I think DC is definitely, since the MCU is sort of in a state of limbo, even though WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier are out on Disney Plus. I feel like this is DC's time. The 2020s, that's going to be DC's time to actually shine
It is,
and
yeah.
put all the haters to shame. Because, DC is the originator of comic books. DC came first. Superman is the great granddaddy of all these niggas, all these superheroes. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I just think, and me personally, of course, you should have planned these characters out more instead of Wonder Woman opening an email in Batman v Superman and here are all the character trailers of Cyborg, Flash, and Aquaman. I'm just like,
that was real cheap,
nah.
It's real just shoved in to
Right.
say, hey, look, we have characters, but that wasn't developed.
And one of the things that I definitely think plagues the DCEU, because that's their cinematic universe's name, the DC Extended Universe, is studio interference. Now, a lot of comic book films throughout the past few years, I thought I heard something, past few decades have been affected by studio interference. I can remember examples such as Spider-Man 3, where Sony executives wanted to force Venom into the movie, and Sam Raimi didn't like the character of Venom. Sam Raimi has always came out and said he hates the character of Venom. Avi Arad, who is like the main head of Marvel, one of the main heads of Marvel, he was the producer on the Spider-Man films as well as Into the Spider-Verse and then the Amazing Spider-Man films. He was like, listen, in order for people to go to the movie and then the people are going to love the movie even more because Venom was in the film. Right. Me personally, as someone who, I don't hate Spider-Man 3. I don't think Spider-Man 3 is bad. Is that bad of a film. I think out of all of the worst Marvel movies, this is definitely the most watchable. I thought Venom was ass in that movie. Now, I think the Venom with Tom Hardy, even though that film, I was like, eh. Because it's like, what's the point of Venom when you don't have Spider-Man? I thought the design of him, great. Another example, what were you saying?
I liked the Tom Hardy 2015 or 16 Venom.
It was 2018.
18. Ooh, I'm way too early. Okay.
Yeah, it came out when we were still in high school.
Yeah, because I went to go see it with some friends.
Yeah.
I thought that without Spider-Man, that was a solid Venom story. Just finding the host first, and then we can get Spider-Man things eventually. I thought it was solid. It holds up pretty well.
And another example of films that were affected by studio interference was a lot of films from 20th Century Fox Marvel universe, especially Fantastic Four by Josh Trank, which was hot garbage. Like, and the other Fantastic Four films are not good either.
Yeah,
I just think
3 in total, I believe, because after that 2005 when there was Rise of the Silver Surfer, and then Fan Four Stick in
2015 came out when I was a freshman in high school. I remember seeing that film with my brother and my cousins, and we all collectively said that was ass. That was hot garbage.
I didn't see it until maybe like 2 years ago, because I saw the original, not when it came out, but a little bit after. My dad had it on DVD, and we watched it. And as a kid, I was like, "This movie sucks," As a kid in the superheroes, to say the superhero movie suck, there's got to be something wrong with it.
Yeah. And it just really sucks because I really like the director, Josh Trank, who directed this film called Chronicle. And I was thinking to myself, because I actually watched Chronicle a few days ago on spring break, I was thinking to myself, this film is really good. This is a really good, I don't want to say Fantastic Four movie, but this is a solid comic book inspired film. It's a found footage. And that genre of films has become obsolete now. It was a real trend back in the early 2010s, but he took that idea and made a really unique story out of it. Another one is, I would say, and I didn't see this film, Dark Phoenix from X-Men,
There.
which people said was horrible. And then even when DC, I mean, whoa, when Disney bought Fox, Disney was like, don't release this. Just cancel this, like, or something like that, as well as New Mutants, which
Yeah, that's
idea the idea of a Marvel horror film, I think is perfect. Of course, they're going to be doing that in Doctor Strange too. But I was thinking to myself, because the trailer was perfect, and they pushed it back many times and
it did.
all
Yeah, I
that.
remember hearing about New Moons maybe like 2019, and they're like, okay, it's coming out 2021. It's 2021, and still
I
no
remember
really good
hearing
work.
it. I remember hearing about it in 2017, and they just kept pushing it back. And then even now with Black Widow, they keep pushing that back, and I'm just
Yeah,
like,
I was talking to my brother about that the same a few days ago. So we were watching WandaVision, and in the beginning for Marvel, they have all the characters faded behind the Marvel logo, and I saw Black Widow. I was like, huh, we haven't had any word about that Black Widow movie in how long? And they said they pushed it to 2020,
yeah,
2021. They said the beginning back in maybe May, and then May's
yeah.
coming up. They were like,
I
okay,
think
we're pushing
it's
it further, and
to
now it's just
July.
there's been no word on it. I just think it's
Yeah.
very strange.
And of course, another film that was affected by studio interference was, of course, Justice League. You know, Zack Snyder, I'm not the biggest Zack Snyder fan when it comes to his films. I do think his films visually incredible. 300, Watchmen, Sucker Punch. I think all of his films visually are great. The thing is, and what I've heard before I started this podcast was the reason why they kind of pushed Zack Snyder to the side is because Man of Steel and Batman v Superman didn't gross $1 billion, because they said that they basically put in the minds that those films flopped basically. And I looked up the box office for both of those films. They most certainly did not flop. Man of Steel grossed about 673 million, and Batman v Superman grossed like 878 million dollars.
Mm.
So they
I
made,
believe
say that one
I
more
believe
time.
that's a product again of the Marvel standard. They're
Exactly.
trying to compare and outdo and match Marvel and their stories, their plots, and now their numbers. That's hurting their own franchise because
Exactly.
these are successful movies, but they're again comparing it to Marvel. Marvel standard, it's not up to their standard, so they're considering it just a flop and doing away with it. When they're
Yeah.
DC fans that want this stuff, they want more of it.
Yeah.
If we got it, then we would turn out for it.
Yeah. I mean,
But
DC, like, those films are definitely successful. They're not flops at all. When I think of a flop, I think of a film that couldn't even surpass its budget. Because then, when it comes to film distribution, the opening weekend is supposed to the
right,
film is supposed to make back its budget opening weekend. And then, we might see like a drop here and there for budget because, during the weekday showings, not a lot of people are going to the movies because they're at work. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, Batman v Superman broke records. It broke a lot of records. You know what I'm saying? I think it was like the highest debut in 2016. And I was thinking to myself, I mean, that's perfect because you have two of the biggest characters in pop culture. Like, this ain't no B-list or C-list character like when Captain America used to be a B-list, C-list character.
right.
Now he's like, Marvel's
S tier.
flagship character. Right, Marvel's flagship character will always be Spider-Man, but who'd have thought Iron Man and Cap would be the two biggest comic book, I mean, characters of all time now, two of the
People
most
like Hawkeye
famous.
and Black Widow are household names now, and they were considered like Z-list.
Right?
They're
People like
non-power assassins.
people like Doctor Strange and Black Panther, which, by the way, R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman.
Right.
Who'd have thought who'd have thought Black Panther, arguably one of the most obscure Marvel characters before that film, would be one of the highest grossing solo films of all
Right.
time? Who the hell would have thought that?
Not just in the Marvel realm of all
Universe.
time. You know,
Right. Right,
I think
right.
that's great.
But see, and when it comes to DC trying to be like Marvel, DC, bro, the in my opinion, I'm gonna be honest with you, Bree, the one film that that Marvel will never top is the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight film from
Right.
Christopher Nolan. That film I think is so good. It is literally better than, in my opinion, anything. Like this film is better than a lot of niggas' discography. Filmographies, bro. Like
Right.
that one film is better than a lot of people's trilogies. Dark Knight over Iron Man trilogy, done. Dark Knight over Thor trilogy, done. Dark Knight over Justice League, done. Like Snyder cut, probably not. But like
Give it time. Give it time.
DC needs to get back to their roots. They need to get back to the darkness. DC Marvel can be all fun and kid friendly and all that type of stuff. Granted, they can have a dark movie with like Infinity War, Endgame, and Winter Soldier and Civil War, but they can be fun. But DC, I want that like gutter type shit. You know what I'm saying? That coming out the trenches type mess. Oh man.
And it also got to Warner Brothers needs to pull out of the director's realm, the movies, leave it to the directors, give us their vision only, because one of the biggest DC movies one of the biggest DC movies that suffered the most from executive interference, Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad had the potential to be one of a really good movie. If you watch it's garbage. It's bad.
Let me tell you something, Brie.
There's a lot of threads in it that you see could lead to something greater if executed differently.
When I first saw the trailer for Suicide, the original trailer at San Diego Comic-Con, I was thinking to myself, oh, this is about to be good. Like, first of all, you have David Ayer, one of the best, a really good director, very competent director. The reveal of Jared Leto's Joker, this is when I thought, oh, he might surpass Heath Ledger with the I'm just gonna hurt you really, really bad. I was like, oh my God. I was in my bed watching it. I was like, oh my God, this is about to be it. It comes out, and I'm thinking to myself, I was in the theater watching it. I'm like, what the hell is this? What was the even the logo was so different. It had Suicide Squad and Gunmetal Gray, and then they was playing all those pop songs and crap and having all the color and stuff. I'm like, why? Why?
They really bastardized the movie, because the Ayer cut, there is an Ayer cut, a David Ayer cut of the movie. I've been seeing stuff about that. He had a vision and he executed it, but the studio wanted it to be more like we see traces of all the neon colors and junk on movie posters, and they put in a bunch of songs and stuff like that. But that wasn't the original vision. That's what they wanted, and they chopped it up a lot to be what it is today.
Yeah, and
Suicide Squad, it could have been greater, and it is going to be, because there's one coming out next year, and it's
James Gunn.
James Gunn, director of
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I was thinking, because people want the Ayer cut now. It's like, okay, you gave us the Snyder cut, give us the Ayer cut now.
Another thing of us bullying them. It's great.
And Warner Brothers is like, bro, we gave y'all the Snyder cut. Leave us alone, please. But we nah. We want, DC fans want all the smoke now.
We do. And it's not that we want smoke. We just want the redemption of these people's vision.
Yes.
We bullied them into giving us a Snyder cut, Zack Snyder's vision, which he deserved to get it out there. And David Ayer, his Suicide Squad, it deserves to be watched, instead of this corporate mess.
I bet you was made just to sell toys and all that type of stuff, because
had to market something,
right? But and going back to the Snyder cut, and like I mentioned, the reason why Zack Snyder stepped down was because of the tragic suicide of his daughter Autumn. One of the things that I was so happy to see Zack Snyder finish his vision, because I feel like this was very therapeutic for him and his wife Deborah Snyder to to honor their daughter. You know what I'm saying? Because and that's one of the things that I was excited for when they announced it, because I feel like Zack can finally get a sense of closure for missing his daughter. Because when you lose a family member, it's horrible. It's a horrible experience. You know what I'm saying? And it could take you years to try to get over getting I don't want to say get over, because I feel like you can get closure, because you can never get over the fact that you lost somebody that you care about. And at the end where he says for autumn, I was like, that's when I was
that hit. It did, because this was
that
all for
hit.
her.
This
He
was
went hard and he shot for the stars for her. I thought that was
right.
beautiful. And there's actually a scene in the Flash meets Batman, and they drive off in his car. There's a big poster, and it's pretty much the center of the scene, but
You are not
it's not
alone.
even easy to Berlin. They drive off to the highway, and there's a big poster, and it's a suicide prevention uh,
Poster.
poster
I
advertisement.
love
Yeah,
I
I thought
love
that was
that.
yeah.
And another scene was when Cyborg, I think, entered into the mother box, and he saw his mom and dad, and then him, fully human. And I just love the line where he
Right,
says, "I'm not broken and I'm not alone."
right.
He knows that even though my family, my biological family, is no longer here, I
Mm-hmm.
have a family with the Justice League.
He's
A
able
lot
to
of people in the world, a lot of people in the world, they feel that, even in high school, a lot of kids, they might not have the best relationship with their biological family, but they could come together as friends. They can have friends that they're considered family. And
right.
I just adored that. And I
That's
also
just
love
beautiful. It really is.
that was beautiful. And then I also love when Superman says, "I have a second chance and I'm not gonna waste it." That hit that honestly, because I think I heard that in the trailer, and I think he said it in the movie. That hit different for me, because that was me knowing that everything that I've gone through in my life, I'm not gonna waste any moment of what I have going on now. I want to be remembered years and years in the future. I want to leave, my mark on the world. And I feel like Clark wanted to, that's one of the things he wanted to do, was leave his mark on the world, even though he's I don't know if Kryptonians are immortal, but even though he's this indestructible godlike figure, he wants to inspire, he wants to give people hope. I
Right, and
love
that's
that.
that's what it's all about for Superman's character. Hope. That's what it all comes down to. That symbol on his chest means hope for people, for humans. For he's Earth's savior,
Yeah.
and for
Yeah.
him to he has a second chance. He doesn't want to waste it. He means that, and
Meant that.
he's gonna do everything he can to make sure.
Exactly. I'm just so glad that Zack Snyder finished his vision for his daughter, because and him and Deborah Snyder did that, because that I can't imagine the amount of pain that they suffered throughout those 4 years, and the film that he was hired to do was being demolished and
Yeah,
Frankenstein together into a monstrosity. I'm Zack Snyder definitely got his redemption for that. And Warner Brothers, y'all need to step y'all's game up for real. Y'all need to stop, interfering with other creatives' visions, because you guys hired them for a reason. That's one of the things I don't understand about studio interference. You guys hired these people to take their vision, to take their style and make a unique film. So don't go together, hire some dude who directed a different type, whose style is very different from Zack Snyder's, and demolish and Frankenstein his vision. I just love this film.
they should
Love
put
this.
more trust in the directors for sure.
Put more trust in the
And
directors.
maybe they're not comfortable for full reigns being a company wanting a product, but they should definitely trust their producers. You hire their directors. You hired them for it. You've seen their previous work. That's all the portfolio you need, and just let them put their stake on it,
Let
instead
them
of
put
trying
their
to,
things
okay,
on
you do this, and then we'll come in and chop it up some, because it never turns out right. It never does.
it. It never does. It never. I know one thing: when I become a director, y'all better not be interfering with my work. It's gonna be look, it's gonna be release the Walton cut immediately.
I will be your biggest supporter in releasing the Walton cut.
Release the Walton cut immediately. Man, I'm really glad I saw the film, and I'm glad that I brought you on to talk about it, because this dynamic, y'all, for the people watching, dynamic is amazing.
And it's there off screen too. We have a group
Right,
chat where we talk about this kind of stuff anyway. So
right. Just great, man. But yeah. Any final thoughts, Bree, about the Snyder Cut and DC in general?
they're definitely on the up and up. Snyder Cut was a step in action, and hopefully we'll get more stuff like this in the future.
Hopefully we get more. Of course, restore the Snyder Cut trending on Twitter. I think I heard on Twitter that it's like the most like viewed hashtag of all time. I think. Keep on doing it. Keep on rocking. But
and we can do this. I know we can. We got the Snyder Cut. We got the Suicide Squad, and this was a little bit more in the past, but we got Young Justice back. Keep
Young Justice.
Keep there was a hashtag, keep bringing YJ, and we got a third season and on the way to a fourth.
Yeah,
so
we're getting a fourth, bro. Restore the Snyder Cut, Warner Brothers, immediately. Like, I'm not playing. But yeah, we've been going. Damn, I think we've been going on for an hour and 30 minutes, but we still gonna continue like after this is over.
Right.
But yeah, y'all, I'm excited. I'm happy about this. But thank you, Bree, for coming on to the 1025 podcast. This probably isn't going to be the last time. I might make this into like a little segment of the podcast where I do like a conversation with somebody about a film or something like that. But yeah. Thank y'all for watching.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully we can do this again sometimes.
Of course. It's always great talking to you. I miss you. I haven't seen you in like 2 years. It's been
too long. Oh my god.
It's been a minute, bro. But yeah. Thank y'all for watching the 1025 podcast. I'm gonna call this 1025 in conversation. That's what I'm gonna call it. So thank y'all for watching like the first segment of 1025 in conversation. I'm Jordan along with Bree, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.